try to do is I'm going to screen share and go into the CAAPID website just to show you the portal. And I want you guys to ask questions because mm, I know people are at different level of some are reapplicants, some are totally new. So their exposure to the system might be different. And in my head, I might start talking like everybody knows this. So if you don't know it, I want you to ask because then I can elaborate. Make sense? All right. So as a basic start, does anybody wants to ask some questions before we start? Dr. Aditi, you said you're a beginner in, like, can you explain what you mean by that? Have you just started your BDS or you just moved to US? Okay, I can't see your response. Okay, so any questions before we start? Okay, you're saying no, like in the process of application. So here's the thing, just to break it down for some, I'm just presuming there might be 1 or 2% who's not aware much about CAPID. So in dentist schools in US, what happened like 10, 15 years ago, people used to come as foreign trained dentists, and mostly I think in the start people from Russia and these countries were coming in. What they would do, some states would ask them to do NBD part 1, part 2, and take licensing exam like ADEX and get license. That's how it was about 20 years ago. Then they said we need to make it, we need to align this more, make it standardized because people would be coming in with fake documents and stuff. So what they said, okay, if you want to get a dental license, now you have to go through schooling or residency. So schools started to intake people. If somebody drops out from D3 years, they used to take them in. But again, there was a lot of paperwork from foreign countries in different languages. So to make it easier, they made an organization called CAPID. CAPID is a portal, an organization which takes all your document, which takes your INBD score, your TOEFL score, your SOP, your personal statement, all of those letters. They take that and then they send it to the schools, and the schools don't need to verify them because they know CAPID has already done it for them. the
Okay.
the downside of that is CAPID charges you money for doing all of these services. So it's an organization that generate money out of your and my pocket by doing all of this processing so we can apply to school. So it's kind of like a bridge way between you and the dental school, because for
Okay.
the school we are too much of a headache to process all the international paperwork and everything. Now there's a question which say, doctor, you said you were doing residency back. Well, here's a question. Somebody's asking, do you think masters back home help you with admission process and stuff? Yes, it does give you credibility. Our degrees are not very much recognized. Like if you were a prosthodontist in India, doesn't mean they will recognize you as a prosthodontist. But it it imagine it's a big story of your life. It kind of shows your consistency about learning. If you're stating that I'm somebody who wants to pursue education, who's invested in education, they will like to see, have you spent any time and money after your BDS in education? Does that make sense? Like, it's your degree is not recognized to get your license, but it does give some value to your resume when you're applying to dental schools. So yes, there is a benefit to it. So coming back to CAPID process, so CAPID is a portal, you apply and everything. Now there are about 30 schools on CAPID. You guys can Google this. Let me screen share this to you now. Here, CAPID directory. Is my voice clear right now?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Aditi, and can you guys open up your mic or camera? Just speak because I'm gonna be screen sharing, so I might miss out on your comments. Like if you're writing in, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is something you guys can open on your computer too later on. It's called ADA CAAPID directory. All right. So it shows a directory of all the schools. This is considered this to be a very important page because see up here, it starts with all the schools that are on CAAPID right now. For
Okay.
example, San Antonio in Texas is a school that takes foreign trained dentists, but they are not in CAAPID.
Okay.
So these are about, you can see all these schools. So my way, somebody asked me yesterday that uh, what would be a good way to pick out schools. So my first of all, before I work with any candidate, I tell them, I encourage them to apply to 10, 15 schools after they are done with the exam and everything. That's my, but obviously if you're applying to 10, 15 schools, that's a lot of money too, right? On average, I'm just giving you a rough number. In 2020, when I was applying, it cost me about $300 per school. So, and I'm saying average. It might be some schools are more expensive, some are less to apply. They take their fee, CAAPID take their fee, sending documents, all of FedEx fee and blah blah blah, those kind of things. So, but on average, imagine 350 to 400 per school. So this is going to be expensive. So if you're planning to apply to schools, imagine about applying to 10 schools and about 3 to 400 per school, so that's like $4,000. So the reason I'm giving you this shock news is because you should be mentally prepared for it beforehand. And then if you're going to go to Stevenson Dental Solution or some any of the bench exam, that's another $10,000 or maybe more now. And then if you're going to prepare for bench exam at home, you need to spend a couple of $1,000 to set up the equipment. And if you get an interview invite, you need to buy ticket, get the hotel, and visit. All right. Or if you take any professional help for anybody, that's gonna also cost you money. So the reason underlying thing is which I'm trying to share is that you should be mentally prepared that is gonna cost you money. So as a family, as an individual, you are already mentally prepared, and you because I know people. Here's the story I'll tell you. I know people who apply to like 4 schools and reach out to me that I didn't get accepted. And I tell them, like, if you're gonna go in, go all in. Like you wanna be nose deep in the water. Don't get your wet feet just wet. If you just see, okay, I'm gonna apply to 1 or 2 school and see, well, you're gonna be spending all this money and you might not get accepted, right? And then you spend this $3,000 and you didn't make a, rather than better is that if you go in, spend $20,000 and get accepted. Because right now for us foreign trained dentists, we aren't exactly young people because we did dental schools. I'm not saying we are old, and don't take it personally, guys, but we are not old, but we aren't young as well. We are like stuck in between two universe. Like that was one of the things I felt awkward in my DDS program. Like back home in dental school in Pakistan, I was the first one in my class to get into a postgrad residency. I've been most of my age, I've been doing things earlier in my life, but when I went to dental school, I saw like literally 23 years old D4 sitting next to me, and I was 32, and I was like, what the hell, where am I? And it's very hard to absorb. And you're not a specialist, you're a general dentist, but you have a little bit experience more than them. And it's kind of you're like stuck in between two universe, which is frustrating, but it's part of the process. Immigrations are not fun. We even have to get a new driving license and go through all of that crap. So it's a price we all pay. So the point I was coming back to is, if you're going to apply for this process, mentally be prepared that this is a big business. I'm going to be spending money into it, because the day you get accepted, they will say, send us $4,000 of first tuition fee, then buy loops for $3,000, then pay ADEX $5,000, and then get most. So don't I feel sad for people, like, and I told in one of my video, like, there's a dental school, as soon as you get accepted, they will ask you for $5,000 to pay for online books. Whether you read them or you don't read them, you have to pay for that software. And you most of the people don't even open that software, but you have to pay that $5,000 because it's mandatory for online books. It doesn't make sense. But I want you to mentally be prepared that this is a business. You're going in, you're paying them, you're a student and a customer at the same time. This is how US work. And once you get accepted, you're going to come out and you're going to try to make the best out of that money that you spend. Yes, Dr. Aditi.
Hi, I was wondering that, like with all that fees and everything for the books and stuff like that, doesn't like the loan cover all of that? Like
So
if we get a loan?
that's a problem for future Homer. In Simpsons, he there's a funny thing in. I'm just gonna share this story. In Simpsons, I don't know if you've seen that cartoon. He
Yeah, I
was
did.
he's getting drunk and he's saying tomorrow I have to do something. Then he says, no, that's a problem for future Homer. Right now, I'll figure it out later on. But the thing is, once you get accepted, then yeah, it depends on where you're getting the loan from, what your visa status is, whatever. Because I know for Indians it's different. Some of them get it from back home. Some who are citizens or green card holder, they get it from here. So that's a question you have to figure out once you get that acceptance. But
Got it.
overall, what I'm trying to say, even before you get accepted, it's a lot of money you're going to be spending. And the reason I'm sharing is because some of you guys might have families, spouses who are financially working with you to many things. You want to keep them on page that, listen, I'm going to be going through a lot of stress. I'm going to be acting crazy because this is very stressful and I'm going to be spending a lot of money in this process. So they don't want to get surprised looking at Stevenson course, $12,000 and living in California for a week and all of that stuff. All right. So, okay. Remember this.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. So, Adia CAAPID. All right. This web page. So, if you, for example, now I'm just sharing with you, like, see how large number of seats these schools have. All of these. You guys can see this, right? But if I click on Alabama, you go on Alabama, it shows you 24. So here's the other thing. If I'm looking at schools, I'm going to look at which program has the most seats, which would have the shortest, like Colorado is 24, NYU is 28. This is 30, right? Deadline is this. You want to know the deadline because people would be applying after June and say, oh, Alabama never responded to me because you didn't do your homework and didn't look at the deadlines. The other thing you want to see is that, is it a rolling process, like a rolling admission or non-rolling? Rolling means, so imagine I'm the admission committee or you're the admission committee. I sent you my documents and Dr. Muskan did, right? My documents came in first and you'll see them and you say, okay, we are sending an invite to Adriel. On the other hand, uh, if somebody's application was really good, but their application came in late, they would still give preference to people who came in earlier. Does that make sense? The importance of rolling admissions? Dr. Amen, other people, Dr. Anjum, anybody else? Are you guys, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask me. Dr. Shweta, Dr. Tanaya, everybody. Okay, I presume you guys are listening or somewhat
Yes,
listening.
we're listening. Mhm.
Okay. So does that make sense? So here's the one other thing that can help you be uh, ahead of other people is that go into this directory and pick the schools and read it like it's your Bible, like it's your Gita or Quran, whatever it is. Like go into the detail of everything. So you should know about that program, the length, the time, when it's opening, when it's closing, if it's going to be a rolling admission, non-rolling, all of these things. Does that make sense? Like some of them, non-citizen, like this kind of thing, non-US citizen or non-permanent US residents must provide TOEFL, right? So some schools like Alabama just takes people with green card. So if you're applying, you want to make sure if whether do I have the green card or not, right? So do your diligent homework beforehand because I know it's expensive, but you can make the best out of your investment if you're prepared. Does that make sense? Like, for example, I'm telling you from my own mistake. I applied to Loma Linda, all right? Loma Linda, back, this was COVID days, 2020, they said we need your degrees, like your degrees from back home, back Pakistan, to be sealed in an envelope and sent by your school. Now, the problem with that is that first of all, they weren't taking any electronic stuff. They wanted things to be mailed in paper during COVID from Pakistan. And at that time, and they had a very long application. If anybody has applied to Loma Linda or planning to apply, just remember they have very long supplemental applications they're going to ask you. So I filled all of that. Took me a lot of time, and I sent it. And my school sent. They asked somebody back home to pick the documents from the school and mail it because the school wasn't mailing it directly. Now the documents never reached Loma Linda. The deadline crossed. My money wasted, right? I'm just saying you can. It's gonna be expensive, but if you have planned it, you can actually be ahead of things and save a lot of time and energy and effort. All right, Dr. Aditi, you were saying something. Okay, I think it's just a hand raise. Okay, all right.
Oh
Any
no, that was earlier, and we already talked about it
Okay,
about the loan situation.
okay. Any other questions from this before I move forward? Okay, there's some schools like Puerto Rico. I think this is considered to be out of US. I've never heard any students going in there. Uh, Nova is 40 months of program now. It's pretty long, but if you get accepted, all you need is a DDL. There are some schools like University of like this is in Kentucky, uh, Louisville. The thing with these schools is some that they will open up the spots depending on if their local students got dropped out. So these schools, if their D2 or D3 student dropped out and they have three spots, they will open it up. That same with University of Florida and stuff. Okay. Any questions from this before I move forward?
Yeah, Dr. Adriel, minimum marks required for TOEFL for the admission process?
Okay, this is a good question. Thank you for asking this. I'm gonna uh, tell you the answer to this. Okay, couple of things. I'll tell you. So TOEFL, I want you to look at the whole bigger picture. All right, the whole big picture is somebody else is raising hand too. You can ask question after this, doctor. So to it's an application process which is judging you on your previous education, on your work experience. They prefer people who have done clinical dentistry back home. They are looking at you if you've given your INBD and passed it in your first attempt, if you have done any education in US, any preceptorship, any C courses. And then on the top of that, so these can vary a lot for each of the dentists. Some of you might be prosthodontists at home. Somebody might have been a GP. Somebody came and did a master's in health administration. Somebody did different things. But few things that are very uniform for all of us is that all of us have to give INBD, right? But the problem with INBD is it's a pass and fail. So Dr. Tulsi might have done really good and got 99% in it, and I just got 76%, but both of us will just show pass, right? Just a P. So that doesn't give us a comparative analysis of who's the better candidate. So the schools consider TOEFL of high value because TOEFL is a uniform exam that's given in US, and the minimum I've heard people getting accepted is 90, with even 92, 93, but their application had research, postgrad from England, these kind of things. But to be honest, if if you're a younger person, you're a fresh graduate, one thing is you have a lot of experience in your life. You've done masters, you've done clinical work, and you just got 100 is fine because you have a lot of other things to compensate for it. But if you're a younger person, like comparatively still, you graduated 3 4 years ago, I think your TOEFL score can get you the most reward. If people ask me what are the two things that can really make your admission process easier, one is your personal statement, and the other is getting good score in TOEFL, because they know that all of these. So your question was, what would be a good number minimum? I This is a very competitive process. If you're thinking about from day one what would be the minimum number, you're not thinking right. And let me explain what I'm trying to say. You need to understand the best of the best are trying to compete up here, and you can't think what is the minimum speed I need to keep up just to survive in this race. You won't get in. You need to think what is the maximum I need to get in order to cut off from rest of my peers. And I know it sounds a little bit cutthroat, but TOEFL score can make you stand out easily. So if you ask me, on average, Colorado in their webinar mentioned that uh, last year people were from 100, 101 to 106 average who got accepted. If I was you, I would get 110, 115, 116. If you, the more you can get, the easier your life would be. What's more expensive, spending a whole year again, applying all over again, doing a master's for 40, $50,000, or just preparing and getting high score in TOEFL? Am I making sense, guys, or am this is too much? My voice is again breaking.
It's good, Doc. I could hear you very clearly.
But what about the rest of you guys? Is it breaking in between?
No, it's good.
I think it's the internet connection, doc. I can't change that part. Okay, so uh, who asked me about TOEFL? Hashim, did you ask me this?
Yes, I asked.
So does it make sense? Like if you're applying for this, I would say I wouldn't like I'm trying in all modesty. I'm just saying I got 114 back when I was applying in 2020. So if you want to make your life, and I know it's not an English exam, it's actually a stress management exam. TOEFL is not about English. TOEFL is more about to figure out the strategy of the exam, the time management, the pattern of the exam. So you want to be familiar with the pattern, that in reading what are they going to ask me. And I watched a lot of noteful videos on YouTube and stuff and practice at home. But it's not an English exam. That's a lie. It's more of a strategy exam. But the schools, I'm telling you, I've known faculty and staff who mentioned this, that's with foreign trained dentists, we aren't worried about their clinical skills. These guys have a lot of clinical experience as compared to D2s and D3s. But the thing with them is their communication level and getting them used to the culture of the school for 2 years, because a lot of dramas happen in school, a lot of issues happen. And then for the school, I'm not going to go into detail, but trust me, there's a lot of crap happens when you have so many foreign trained dentists coming in there. They bring their trouble from back home. Well, they have a fight that started in Delhi and ends up in somewhere in Texas or something like that. So I'm just saying these kind of issues happen, and then the school has to deal with them. And then it's an added stress, and then they have to get understand their culture, their issues, and all of that. So they want people who come in, pay them, study, get out, and take their license. They don't want extra headache with these people. All right. So if you have good TOEFL score and your communication is good, that can actually make them feel a little bit more confident about you, that okay, he would be less risky of a person to deal with. All right. Any other question regarding this?
Hi, Doc. I had a question regarding rolling basis thing. Like, which all colleges send invites based on the rolling basis? Is there any list, or can
I
you name some?
remember each of the name, but as a generalized rule, School. Does everybody understand what the rolling or non-rolling is? Because I can repeat it if you didn't. Sure, I can explain what a rolling and non-rolling. Okay. So again, quickly to tell everybody if somebody missed out, rolling admission, and you guys can speak in the mic because I might not be able to read all the comments in the chat box. But okay, rolling are schools, because understand from a school perspective, you're a dental faculty, you're a teaching, right? You're busy, you have to do a lot of work, and this season comes in that every season you have to look at 800 applications and pick 20, 30, 40 people out of them, right? So it's a lot of work for them. So to relax themselves and to get done with this fast, what they do, some schools prefer rolling admission. So rolling admission is if 10 people applied, whoever applied the first will be given priority, like the early bird kind of thing. Whoever sends their application, complete application first, will be given priority. So you might have a really good application, but I applied earlier than you. I would be given an edge or an advantage of sending an invite. All right, because the school, imagine from a school point of view, the schools are rewarding you to come early to them so they can get done with the process fast. Does that make sense? So you're teaming up with them, helping them to get done with this process faster. Does that make sense? Now coming to the second question is that which schools are not rolling and which are rolling, is that the schools in California, for the most part, as a rule of thumb, like UCLA, UOP, I think USC too, they were non-rolling. Like they were like, we don't care. You can send us till your application till the end of the deadline day. When the deadline hits, we open up all the application and then we pick and choose. But again, these things keep changing. That's why I said you want to go into directory and you want to read very thoroughly what they have mentioned on their website. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions from this until now, guys? And did I make sense about what? Okay, Doc, Colorado is a non-rolling. It's I think it's a rolling, but this is something I want you to look into their websites. I know it's a rolling, but I can't go into each and every school's detail. This is a homework for you guys. You need to go in wherever you're applying. You need to see, and if you already applied to Colorado, you should I think Colorado doesn't mention this. I applied, my deadline was I think when I was applying, the deadline was February 13 or something like that to send in all the documentation. And my reached on January 25th. Even though I was applying early, but things were delayed and all of that stuff. But I got an invite in the third batch. So people who applied early, they got the first batch, the second, and then the third. Now, again, the if you have to summarize this, being early will give you advantage. That's what I'm saying, because sometimes you send a letter of recommendation that your professor never signed on, but if you sent it early, the school sometimes reach back to you, hello doctor, that your letter of recommendation doesn't have a signature from the professor, can you get it fixed? But if you're applying on the last day, like just as I said, Loma Linda, my documents never reached on time and it was a waste of money and energy. So what I'm trying to explain, if you want to keep it very simple in one line, is apply as early as possible. Period. Does that make sense? Okay, I would prefer if you can open up the mic and speak, but I'm going to see there's something in the chat box. Is there a greater preference for candidates who are in the States? Yes, I personally, to be honest, the schools will never say this to you. They can't. It would be a discrimination. But after COVID, it's it was easier for school to give admission to somebody who's already within US. Otherwise, like there were people who got accepted but didn't get visa on time because of COVID, or then didn't like didn't get their loan figured out at time. But people still get accepted from India and fly after their admission. I'm just telling you, I had a lot of people who do that. But obviously, for them, it's easier to recruit people who are already in U or Canada. TOEFL attempts matter? No, they can't see how many attempts you did. INBD? Yes, they can see. All right, there's a lot of questions in chat. But guys, if you can open up your mic or camera and speak, that would be easier. But okay, how to choose a school according to one's profile? I don't know what the answer would be to that because I don't know your profile. That's something you need to. That's like you asking me how do I find my spouse. I don't know what kind of personality you are and what would suit you, right? So the best answer to that is that you want to go to each and every school, read their website. Maybe, for example, I'm just saying, when I was applying, Indiana, I lived in Ohio. Indiana is in Midwest, about 1 hour from me. And they are very much involved in community work. And they like to see a letter of recommendation written by community. So, or maybe Colorado works with Mission of Mercy, and you've been part of Mission of Mercy. So this is something that you go and read in every school's website and see if you find something that is coherent to your profile. There's no right and wrong answer. You just read stuff, you talk to their students, and something clicks, something makes sense. Maybe you have a relative in that town. By the end of the day, there is no ideal fit, or because you need to understand we have to apply to multiple schools, so we get one acceptance and get a license. That's the whole end goal. The end goal is that. Am I making sense, Dr. Goss?
Yes.
Okay. Is it better to have F1 visa if you are on B1 or B2 or percent? Well, you can't pursue a master's on B1. That's illegal. Once you become a student, you have to switch to F1. And I personally don't do visa consultancies. I don't suggest about these things because I'm not an expert. And for every country, it's different. Every year is changing. But the point is, in order to legally study in US, you either have to be F1 or J1. Secondly, does volunteering or CE programs done in home? Yes, they do. There is an advantage, but if you can do it in US too, that has a more weightage. Okay, if you done volunteer back home, yes, most of us have done dental camps in our dental school, and it's really easy to lie about them. But if you have done Mission of Mercy or anything like that in US, that's better. Next question is, can we send transcript to L? I don't know. I don't know. You gotta ask them about this. They can't. That's a I. So are you suggesting you want to send transcripts even before the CAAPID cycle starts or before submitting the supplemental application? Dr. Sandhu? Okay. So the point is.
So,
Yep.
sorry. So, Doctor, I was saying that if we have submitted the application for LLU and we are waiting for the supplemental questions, till then we can send the transcripts, right?
If I don't know, I don't have an exact answer. If I'm filling the supplement, if I was you, here's my strategy would be, I would email the coordinator and say, hi, I've submitted my application. I'm filling in my supplemental application, and I'm going to be sending in my like my documentation or my degrees, and this is the receipt number or the tracking number.
Okay.
The tracking number is the key to solving all of this problem. Keep a tracking number.
Okay.
Right. Use FedEx. FedEx is the best service. DHL or FedEx. and keep tracking numbers. Okay. And FedEx
Okay.
doesn't pay me, just to let you know. I have no affiliation with them, but I think they are the most reliable ones.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Um,
So the second question is, can we volunteer on a visitor visa in US or no? Is it illegal?
I think as long as you're not getting earning money, you can do whatever you want to.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you.
Sure. Next question is, and it's easier if you turn on your camera and like turn on your mic and speak. But do publications hold up weightage? Yeah, it does, depending on what platform your publications were done. Because I know in some countries right now there are people who are selling publications who will charge you money and put publications on your name. So if I know this, so most probably the schools are aware of this too. So it depends on. I had zero publications, and I got accepted to four. So it does. They have their weightage, but they are not the single factor which decides your admission. All right, Dr. Mara, like.
Hi, Dr. Adriel. I have a question. So, after we applied for the CAAPID and we submitted the application to the schools, can we add things later to it, like edit it later? Does the
So
school notice it?
I'll tell you this. Yes, back when I was applying, maybe your TOEFL score changes, or you did something, or you got accepted to a master's, or did a CE course. You can email them. You can email that school with that documentation very briefly, and attach that document or whatever is it, and send it to them and ask them to update. Remember this. This is the key thing. Always put your CAPID ID in the subject.
Okay.
And I'll tell one thing, you can always communicate to them, schools, email them, but sorry, your communication matters a lot. The way you correspond, and there's a certain way, like in US, the professional way to, like, this is where I would imagine if there are 40 people in this school right now in this Zoom call, all of us are applying. But if you know how to write your email very carefully and like in a respectful and like brief manner, it really makes you stand out. Because I'll share a story with you guys in a few minutes. But yes, you can, to answer your question, yes, you can send your documents. Yes, Dr. Aditi, you were raising hand. Okay, all right. I think it was from the past. Any other question, guys? I'm gonna open up the CAPIT and just show you the Dr. Deval. If you have any questions,
Doctor, I have a question. This is Sandhya.
yes, Doctor.
Doctor, you were saying about the reapplicant, right? So, what other thing can a reapplicant do, like to improve the profile? Because everyone does the CE courses, everyone does the.
There's a video I'll share with you. I did a
Mhm.
with, I forgot, Dr. Shilpa. She's from
Mhm.
South India. She applied to schools, didn't get anything, but then she went. I thought her strategy was very aggressive, but
Mhm.
very effective. She changed her, like in 1 year she changed everything. She got a hygiene license, started working as a hygienist. She somehow found faculty in UPenn that was willing to let her work, like do research with her online, like remotely.
Okay.
And she did courses, and she kind of changed her profile a lot in 1 year, increase
Okay.
TOEFL. So there's a lot of things, and I'll share in the group a couple of videos that would be more in detail. But you can do a lot of things. The main thing they want to see is that, okay, Adriel applied in 2023, didn't get accepted. Next year he's saying I'm shadowing another doctor. That's the change in my resume. Well,
Mhm.
I tell people failure can be so much useful. Vulnerability is so much useful if you can show that you used it to improve yourself. So if you failed, you didn't get accepted, but you kind of said, okay, I got slapped in the face, but now I went back and trained for 3 months and look at me now. Or I went back and changed so much. I did this after this. It really makes the other person see it, look at you from a very different angle.
Okay.
So you can, being a reapplicant is not a bad thing as long as you're willing to invest to turn the table around. Maybe you have some people don't have enough high of a TOEFL score. Because I'm telling you, two factors that can really affect your application is your TOEFL score and your personal statement. I can't emphasize enough on that part. Any other question, guys?
Yeah, Dr. Adriel, what are the main
Mhm.
things in personal statement? Like the main highlights a dentist should add in?
Have you, by any chance, saw my recent video I made?
Yeah, I have. But you know,
I might spend the next 30 minutes repeating the same script again, but the main thing is,
just to give a brief, highlight to it.
so, okay, personal statement. Okay. So a couple of things. There are different ways to look at it. There's not, when it comes to personal statement, it's a story about your life. The thing that make this statement different, it's personal. It's not a public statement. It's a personal statement. It's very personal. It's something that you don't tell everybody, or maybe you're very particular about telling these things about. So resume is something which tells the numbers of your academic life. It shows the academic. Now, I can say I did high school, I did college, I did BDS, but in between that time, there's a lot of things that were happening to me. It was we are not robots that we click A, then B, and C and D. We show on our paperwork the timeline, but during these timeline, there were a lot of things that were happening to our soul, to our brain, to our emotions, to our physicality. And the personal statement is actually the opportunity to fill those gaps up, to show what kind of human you are. And my summary in a nutshell is that in US, if you're writing a personal statement, the main storyline of your life should be telling your origin in the first paragraph. And if you ask me what's the most important, like when I work on a personal statement with a candidate, or when I read somebody's personal statement, the primary thing I look at is the first paragraph. If you were not look Imagine this way: if you're a admission committee and you have to read 800 like applications, and if you can't respect my 3 minutes that I'm giving to your personal statement, then you lost my respect or time. You have to make sure that the first paragraph of your personal statement has been done very carefully. And I'm not going to say like any names or anything of, I've seen some organizations doing really crappy work, really, like, because when I say crappy, I'm not judging somebody's story, but the way a doctor writes, any doctor from any part of it, we are different people coming from different countries, but we have one thing very much in common: we are all dentists. Dentists are picky people who like to look at very minute things, like to work their hands, and tend to be perfection driven at times. These are some things that are very common to all of us. But uh, so I personally feel there's a standard line, like a mean line, that every doctor is able to write. Some personal statements I've seen that were actually below that level. And my suggestion is that the way you tell your story, it doesn't have to be a Shakespeare's novel, but it should be engaging enough to make the other person think that I want to actually see this person or know this person, who this is. And by the end of the day, it's your story. Write what you like about yourself. If they give you an acceptance or send you an invite, good enough. If not, good enough as well. I'm going to show you the best side of what I can. If you like it, it's fine. If you don't, that's also your loss. So you can't act like, one of the things in your personal statement and your application, don't act too desperate. I've And I'll tell you this story that when I was giving USC, so when I was applying, I was already in US, did the masters, working in a nonprofit. And when I started applying to schools, these office people, like in schools, were treating applicants very shitty. I'm just sorry for the term, but like they won't reply to your email, or they will be very snobbish. And I was thinking, I'm working in a healthcare nonprofit work. I email people every day. I did a master's. I talked to university people in the past 2 years. Why are these people showing so much tantrum? Like, why can't they reply an email, or be like, just treat us normally how other people do? But then I realized is because during this whole process, the foreign trained dentist acts so desperate that we lose our respect. And let me give you an example. I was in USC interview. It was recorded, and the person who deals with USC interview is Corey, and they were telling about the school and everything and the process and the program, and there were 80 foreign trained dentists like me. And when he gave all the presentation, everything ended. One person said, "Thank you, Corey," and then the other said, "Thank you, Corey, thank you, Corey, thank you." And there were like 50 people who continuously, like a sheep, kept saying, "Thank you, Corey." And I was thinking, Corey doesn't even know who's saying thank you. He doesn't know. But just because one person said it, now everybody wants to look good and doesn't want to miss out on this opportunity. And I was thinking, if you really want to say a thank you, just write it in the comment. Or maybe day after tomorrow, just say, "Appreciate your consideration and all the effort that you put into your work. Thank you, Corey." Something like that. But that's when I realized that we are, as foreign trained dentists, are so much desperate to get into school that we lose our value, the way we communicate. And this is one of the most important thing. You, as a regardless of what it is, you're a dentist in one other country. When you're communicating, you're going to be paying them a lot of money and everything, but do not act so much desperate that opportunities run away from you. Because that's one of the things I've seen people. They will say, "I just wanted to get into. I live in New York. I just want to get in NYU, or I live in Denver. I just want to get in Colorado, or I live in Ohio. I just want to get in Indiana." And they are desperate to just get into one school, and that one school actually keep running away from them. Like, they don't send them invite or acceptances, and they become more desperate about it. And I tell them, apply to other schools, get accepted somewhere else. If they don't get too desperate, because when you're desperate, opportunities run away from you, and nobody likes a desperate person. You want to keep, yes, we want this, but we want to keep our calm as well, especially in our communication and in our presentation. Does this make sense, or I'm throwing gibberish stuff at you guys?
No, it makes sense. Yeah.
This is one of the things, if you want to take away from this session, is when you're communicating, communicate in a professional way, and they will see this guy or this doctor or this person is actually not acting like a, because I know people, we get very tense and there's a lot going on in our lives and all of that stuff, and they will keep emailing school every 3 days. "Did you get my document? Did you get my document? Did you? And those people who are reading your email, they are like, okay, whatever happens, this person is a pain in the neck. If he or she get accepted, they're gonna annoy us a lot. And I tell people, there's always a likability factor. Like, people who we like, we end up being biased towards them. So, and it works the opposite way too. If we don't like them, we become biased on the other end as well. So you don't want to annoy people to the point where they kind of actually don't want you there. And as immigrants, we do have that tendency to do that, right? Uh, any question before I move forward, guys? Okay. So personal statement, coming back to you, Hashim, the way you write your first paragraph, your origin story, and how you relate it to your, and I'll share the link to that video again. How you link it to dentistry, and you want to show a, a trajectory of your life where you have seen struggles, where you have worked hard, and you have dealt with failure. This is one of the most important thing you want to show in your personal statement, that there was some part. A story remains incomplete if it doesn't have a fall. It needs to show some kind of difficulty that you dealt with. And I'm not trying to ask you to fabricate a wrong story. Like, if you didn't had much difficulty, don't falsify it. But if immigration was difficult, you had a failure in an exam, some difficulty like that, mention that somewhere in the story, how it made you. And it's not to become a victim, oh look at me, life happened and I'm the saddest person on the universe. It's more about things happened to me, but it made me into a much more stronger human being and resilient in life. That's what you want to say. All right, guys. Let me open up the CAAPID thing. If do you guys want to take a break or anything? If let me know when you want to. I haven't opened my CAAPID login for years now. Let me see. I'm going to put in my username, password, and then do the screen share up there. All right. Okay, you might see. Okay, this is my CAAPID. I haven't opened this since 2019. So start re-application. That's what I'm doing. So it kind of asks you your name, your phone, everything, blah, 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 blah. And I don't want to put in all of this detail at this time, but does, let me see. Let me just move forward. Let me fill in this so I can take you guys a little bit ahead of it, okay? Let me fill this. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can ask me, okay? Any question, guys?
I have a question, Doctor.
Sure.
Is it better to do a Stevenson core or like the bench course over here in Canada? Because they are asking about like a lot of money. I'm not sure
Sorry,
which
I
is the
didn't get
best
your
option.
question. I didn't get your question. Can you repeat?
Okay, so the thing is, I have to choose between a Stevenson course or a bench prep course in Canada.
So
So
I don't know. This is like really hard.
DSTC.
I people who have taken courses from both of them, talk to them, compare them. I just know Stevenson. I know people in my class who had take Stevenson. Yeah, Stevenson is expensive because he was a professor emeritus in UCLA. He was a very big
Okay.
faculty member. So if he's charging you because he actually been trained by people who were trained by GV Black. So he comes
Okay.
from a legacy of GV Black. So if he's charging you money is because he is from the fraternity of GV Black. Now I don't know your resources or situations, but you need to just talk to. I don't know this other organization. I can't compare. Like I don't know.
So the
Yep.
thing is like it's near to me and I can practice for like 2-3 months, like once a week.
The
And
the answer to this is how can, if I don't even know anything about that faculty, about their program, I can tell you an implant course in US because I've been there, right? So the best way, if I was you, I would talk to people who took courses from both of them and compare it. You're asking from person who only knows one and doesn't know anything about it, and I don't want to give you a wrong answer. So the right way to deal with this is talk to people who took both the courses or took courses from either way. Listen to them, compare them, and go from there.
thank you.
Sure. So this we are back in CAAPID. So I'm a reapplicant. Is asking me start a fresh application or a copy. I'm just saying copy data. Okay. So in the start, these are the. Is everybody able to see this, right?
Yes.
Okay. It asks you about your. This is everything they would like to know about your personal detail, your contacts, your citizen information, ethnicity, blah blah blah. A standardized test contains, it asks you about the colleges that you attended back home, up here, any masters, then then your INBD, your TOEFL, your experience, in achievements, if you got any awards, if you got any distinctions, any medals, those kind of things you can put in. License, I only had a license of general dentistry in Pakistan. I put that in. Let's move forward. Okay. Okay, we are preparing. Okay, so it kicked me out. Sorry, guys. It's not letting me go in there. But just to give you an answer, what it happens is that you go in, there's the first side which will ask you about all your personal like your personal information, your name, your social security if you have it, your address, your ethnicity, all of that detail. The second will be where it would require you to send your ECE evaluation. Does everybody know what ECE evaluation is? Okay.
Yes.
They want your ECE evaluation, your INBD scores, your TOEFL scores, and obviously whenever you send it, you have to pay them. There are some schools like Loma Linda requires you to send your TOEFL score again. Whenever you send your TOEFL score, you have to pay them, the organization, to mail it. So that's added money as well. Then the next part up there is you choose schools, the ones that you want to apply, 10, 15, 20, 30 schools. Each school, when you choose it, inside there will be a supplemental application. Not all of them, but 95% of them will have some questions. For example, Boston University will ask you, why do you want to come to Boston University? What makes you stand out as a applicant? And all of these questions. Colorado has their own questions. So in this way, you have to fill it up, and some would require you to upload your resume or something like that. The main key thing is to start with this ahead of time. And one other thing, that if you're applying to CAAPID this year, one of the things that we will really takes time or people get stuck is letter of recommendations, because the dean in India or Pakistan went for a vacation and disappeared out of the universe, and now they are not uploading it, or the staff is not picking up your phone. So whatever it takes, you have to bribe them, you have to go there, you have to send a family member, whatever it takes, get your letter of recommendations done early on. All right, because you can't force a senior professor to do it fast for you, right? So that's something you have to be very persistent and respectful and get it done early. All right. And any other questions? Yes, Dr. Aditi.
Hi, do you mind explaining like a bit more about the letter of recommendations, like how it works? Like, do we have to send them a link through CAAPID, and then they'll have to?
Okay. So here's the thing. I'll tell you overall the understanding about letter of recommendations. In US, you tell, like, I'm telling somebody I'm a male dentist, I'm this tall, I'm like this, I do this, I've done this, right? This is, you've been telling your own story with your personal statement, your resume, your application. This is you trying to tell who you are. Now, to verify what you're saying and to make it more credible, they are asking you to find some people who can give proof, right? Imagine if you don't know me at all and I come and tell you very big statements and awards and certifications of who I am, right? You'll say, okay, fine. We hear what you're saying. You showed us the paperwork. Is there anybody in the town or in the city that can verify you or tell who you are or give proof or witness to the things that you're saying? So that's the philosophy of letter of recommendation. Now, after saying that, what makes a letter of recommendation more, gives it a more weightage or makes it stronger? Number one is the letterhead or the standing of that person, who that individual is. If you can get a letter of recommendation from the dean of Boston University or from GV Black or somebody who's a very senior doctor, which is worldwide recognized, that's a very strong letter of recommendation. Now, the reason they want one letter from your dean or from your school, because they want to verify that you actually went and studied in that school. So, first of all, when I was getting my letter of recommendation, one was from the dean, the other I wanted to get it from US, because the thing about US is, when it comes to US, they only like to recognize their own system. That's how US work. Yeah, fine. In India, there would be, or Pakistan, somebody giving you a really good letter of recommendation. But first of all, they will take 3 minutes just to figure out the name of this person. Like, what is this name, who this person is. And then they also know that these people can fabricate false document in these countries. So in their head, the credibility of a foreign document will always be low to Americans. So my suggestion is to get the other two letter of recommendation. Actually, my recommendation is to get 4 letter of recommendations or 5, one as a backup, because sometimes there are some schools or places which will ask you for extra letter or gives you the opportunity to upload an extra letter. So my suggestion is to get 4 of them. But talking about the basic main 3 months, one should be from your dean, 2 should be if you have been in US, if you shadowed in US, get it from somebody in US. So what I did was, I was trying to think, okay, my dean, it was a person I was doing oral surgery residency with, so he's a good person to get my letter. Okay, one was that. The other 2, I got one from a from a doctor I shadowed in US, and the other letter was actually from the Mission of Mercy CFO. The reason I got a letter from the Mission of Mercy CFO is because he was also my professor in MHA in my master's program. He used to teach healthcare finance or something like that. So I was trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, for the lack of better term. I'm just saying that. So that way I can, that person can also tell about my credibility as a student and my ability to work and volunteer in non-profit organization. So you have to think in your, and everybody's circumstances are different, right? If you're sitting in India, you need to figure out, okay, one is my dean, maybe some other person could be a research work that you have done. In US, I know some of you might have done research work in a school or somewhere like that. If you can get a letter of recommendation from a school, dental school, or from a credible institution in US, that's stronger.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I have another question.
Yep.
So my question was, like how do we get the LORs from them? Like,
By asking them.
When they send it to us, do we upload it somewhere like on the CAAPID or somewhere, or do we just...
Good time. Okay, I got your question. So finally, CAAPID said they just emailed me. They reviewed my application. So I'm in the. Here's the thing. You guys can see this is how the CAAPID portal looks like, right? I'll show you. You asked the right question at the right time. So this is where my personal information would be. You have to fill this in as early as possible. All right. Is everybody able to see this?
Yes.
Okay, good. Then you go into academic history, you put in your college that you attended, your school details, previous application attendance, your ADAs, tests, like if you've given NBD1, INBD, ADAT, whatever it is, then TOEFL, standardized test, right? You put all of that stuff. Once you fill these in, then it comes to support information. So in support information, when you go in there will be evaluations. Evaluations are your experiences, achievement, license, your personal statement, any other relevant. Like some people want to mention that they did some kind of work like I had people who worked in Ukraine before war, and then war happened and they never got documentation for that. So they mentioned that part up here. Something different that you want to mention, you can share it up here. So I think this is evaluation. So this is the part where we do the evaluation, right? It's saying that I can't do it at this moment, but up here they will give you the option of the people that you want the letter of recommendation from. So I would click here, write my professor's name, email address, official email address, and what will happen is that CAAPID will send them an email saying that Adriel William is applying for CAAPID and wanted to request you to upload the letter of recommendation. So the way I would work on this, for example, if I was you right now, I would contact my dean's office. I would contact my whoever the doctors are and say, hey, I'm applying to this process, foreign trained dentist through CAAPID. I wanted to request if you can give me a letter of recommendation. Most of the time, the people will say, how about you write it for us and we will sign it. All right. So make sure you write a good one. And I tell people to highlight the same attributes or criteria that you mentioned in your personal statement. Like if you've been somebody who's been involved in a lot of research or community work, these are the same things that you want to verify in their letter of recommendation. Does that make sense what I'm saying? All right. So after that, they will get an email, have them hand signature, date it, and then they will upload it on the CAAPID portal, and CAAPID will send you an email that your document have been received. Dr. Dipti, you want to ask something?
Yes. I have a question about the letter of recommendations as well. So my dean have written a letter of recommendation last year, and do I need to like ask for a new letter again, or would it be possible for me
If
to?
you can approach them and ask them to write it like with a new date, it would be better off. 1 year
Okay.
old is not bad, but if it's a 2024, that would be better.
All right. Thank you so much.
Sure. Any other questions, guys? Up here. Dr.
Sorry, doctor. So I had this question, like as a reapplicant, do you think that my letter of recommendation, the content for the letter of recommendation from my dean should change, or we can keep it the same?
If you think it was good enough, if you feel like it's justified, it's actually good, it's fine. But if you feel like, yes, I have done something different and I actually feel like this can be improved, then do it.
Because they usually write things what we have done in our DDS time.
Well, most of the time they let you write down the thing, right? Your dean. So it's not about what they want to write, it's about when you read it, do you feel like there's area of improvement that you want to do? Then do it. Because most of the time the deans in India, Pakistan, they just sign it and upload it. They don't have time to go through all of the details. Yes, Dr. Arun, you were raising hand.
Yes, Dr. Adriel, thank you. My question to you is regarding the same with letter of recommendations. When I know it's the most important because you emphasized in all your video, it's the most important writing document. So when you say that, what could be the difference? Like I know everybody talks about their education, because when you come to dean and faculty, other than that, so what is the most important point you would, from the admission point of view, you will want us
There
to
are
put
two
on?
things I'll mention. One of the things I usually say that the personal statement is one of the most important written documents. The letter of recommendation is a supporting actor. It's not the main hero of the movie. The main hero is the personal statement. Now, coming back to your question, the honest truth is that these letters by the end of the day are pretty much the same. We all are dentists, and we can't say, oh, he was a really good helicopter pilot, because we were not. We were dentists, right? And
everyone are dentists, right? Everyone are the same.
90% of the things are the same. The only thing that can make it stand out, it verifies the same thing that you are mentioning in the personal statement. Again, I said this before, the person that I'm showing or shaping in the personal statement, they should back the same person up. They shouldn't start saying, like, in my personal statement, I said I'm a very hardworking person who like to work with community work and has been involved in a lot of non-profit organization. And in my letter of recommendation, my dean is saying that he's a really good cricketer. He used to play for university cricket team. Both are saying maybe the truth. Both are saying very strong things about me, but you want to verify, you want to back up the words that you said in personal statement. In personal statement, you said, I know people who are very extrovert and they used to organize things in their school, were class representative, and they are very good team players. So if you mention that in your personal statement, maybe in your letter of recommendation, they can mention that, yes, he was a class president, and his involvement in class activities were very productive and supportive, and he took care of his team really good, and all of that stuff. So it's not finding something different as compared to other person. It's actually about verifying the same thing that is unique about you. Am I making sense?
Yeah, doctor. Thank you.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Doc, I had question regarding LORs. That where can we can we upload them before the CAAPID cycle
I
starts?
don't think you have to upload them when the new cycle starts. That's when you have to do it.
Okay, and where can we upload our additional LOR in case like we have an option to do that?
Usually in the supplemental applications, they will give you option to upload any additional documents.
Okay, so it goes in additional document.
Yeah, and maybe sometimes you can even directly get it emailed directly to the school.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Yep, Dr. Muskan. Yep.
Hello, doctor. Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you so much, doctor. So, doctor, I have a question regarding the choice of recommenders. You said that it will be better if we could get two from the US, but I have two shadowing experiences from US, nothing much or nothing less. So, do you think it would be better if I do it one dean and two US?
Now, if you don't get two letter from US, if you only get one, what's your other option? When you say better, what are you comparing it with?
So I was either thinking that it could be two US experiences and one dean, or one US, one dean, and one faculty from my dental school.
I think you should be getting all four of them. Keep the US as the primary ones with the
Okay.
dean, just upload the fourth. I think you should have a fourth one as a backup.
Okay, so my primary three could be two from the US, but both are shadowing, so that would be fine.
What you're mentioning is shadowing, but how you write them makes a lot of difference. And trust me, US prefer people from who are DDS from US.
Okay, so and doctor, one more thing regarding the supplemental LORs, do you suggest that we directly upload it to the supplemental part of the web
Yes.
college? Okay, or is it better that we tell our recommender to email, because people say that
You can do both. Ask them to, as if this is a person who's, because sometimes the professors don't even have time to send emails for you. So if you have a professor who's willing to do it for you, do it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Yes, Dr. Aditi. Wait, is there rest of the people listening, or they are like just put on? It's
listening.
okay.
We're
Thank
listening.
you. Thank you, Dr.
Doc. You're
Listening.
answering all my questions already. So I'm not asking separately.
I actually had the same questions about LORs, but you're answering them, so I'm good.
Yeah, I know there are 4 or 5 people just asking questions. They haven't paid anything. You guys can ask questions to Dr. Tanaya. If anybody else want to ask questions, you guys are also welcome to jump in. Dr. Mika Peter, if you want to ask anything, you're more than welcome. Dr. Ambreen or any one of you. Okay, yeah, whoever was Dr. Diti, sorry to cut you.
Hi. So, like how you about that they give preference to like dentists who are in US. So does it have anything to do with the ethnicity? Like like they have to be Americans, like whites, or like the other races, or it can be an Indian, but a DDS.
Okay, let me answer that. There's no this. Some things are not written in books or written in papers. It's just a psychological observation that you do. If I am a school, I know that when a foreign trained dentist comes in, he usually goes to his own, like people from his home country and work with them and is fine. And sometimes they can even do favors to each other and write letters to each other, which are not honestly all true. So I usually suggest, just to show a more well-dimensioned or a well-rounded personality of yours, it's better to have letter of recommendation or experiences of or volunteer work that is beyond, or that is beyond your circle. For example, mostly people coming from, I'm just take it as I'm just telling you an observation, people who come from India who are Hindu, most of the time they will tell me about volunteer work in a Hindu temple. My friends who were Sikh, they went into a gurdwara. My friends who were Muslim ended up going to a mosque. Christians ended up in a church. And I tell them, like, fine, good, it's easier for us to go, but that's the low hanging fruit. If I'm a Christian, I can walk into a church, but it will take much more guts for me to go and do seva in a gurdwara, right? Or to go and work in a mosque or go at a Jewish center. And that actually shows your ability to go out of your comfort zone and do something. So this is again my personal suggestion. This is not a hard, fast written thing, that if you have the ability to do something a little bit different, like most of us are not used to of working with HIV patients, or even if you are with LGBT community or domestic violence patient or PTSD or war veterans. We never, like, we are foreign trained people. We being going as a brown guy to a person who's a war veteran and PTSD, it might trigger his PTSD looking at me. There could be a high chance, but even showing that you actually went and did something which is beyond your circle, it actually shows a much more better profile. And it's not just the profile, it just gives you it gives you a better understanding about US. The reason I love living in Midwest in Ohio is because it has less diversity. So it's more, you get more Caucasian community around up here. But the good part is I'm out of my comfort zone all the time. And it allows me to behave better, number one, because when we are in our own desi or our home community, we tend to act more like laid back. The second thing is you get to learn more because you have to adapt, you have to survive. So you don't have to, but my recommendation is get letter of recommendation or experiences that are beyond your circle, that makes you, because they weren't expecting, I'm just saying, somebody coming from India or Pakistan going and working with veteran community or Indian reservation, the Native American reservations. So going out and work, so when they get to see, oh, he or she understand Native American or people in it's called Appalachian Mountains. These are very underprivileged communities within US. When you show that you know these problems, that kind of gives them a signal that this person is assimilated more in the American system.
Um, I have one more quick question, please.
Sure.
I think 2 years back, so I did go to several colleges, and I was taking my prerequisite classes for a dental hygiene program, but then I dropped it. So do you think it would be of any use if I mention it on my profile?
If you dropped out, it doesn't look like a good thing to mention, I don't think.
Okay, got it.
It raises red flags, though I wouldn't mention that.
Because I switched to switched to planning towards DDS, so that was
So
the only.
whatever it is, but don't mention things that you have dropped out. It can actually create red. Here's one. I'll get to the next question, but here's the thing. One of the key things I tell people, like how Dr. Tulsi, you were mentioning that you had to go back and forth to India and come in US, and I know a lot of people who did that. Do not mention or say things that you can't explain on paper, because you're digging into a rabbit hole that you can't explain, and it's just going to confuse them about you. And trust me, the schools don't have time to call you and say, can you explain this? They will just read it and say, this is confusing. This sounds fishy. This sounds shady. Maybe he's or she is not a good candidate. They're going to move forward. So I tell people is to make your story more audible. That's one of the things I do when I work with candidates, is that I try to help them out to make things more audible to American ears. Because you need to understand the American worldview is very different. When you watch Netflix, they see India in a very different way, in a specific manner. That's their lens. The way they see Middle East, the way they see Mexico, is that they have a lens. And you need to understand, when you're writing to the American society or the American community, you have to make things audible to them, because you're working in their system, they are not working in your system. So, for example, if I say as an oral surgery resident, I was doing GP work in the evening, they will first of all think, as a specialist, you're not supposed to be doing this. Second, how did you get time to be an oral surgery resident and do GP work? So that's going to create more questions in their head. So rather than not to stir the beehive, just keep it simple and keep things as they are more audible to them. Dr. Ghosh, I hope I'm saying your name right.
It's Gauss, but it's fine. Hi, thank you, doctor, for this such informative session. But I have two questions for you. I have a letter of recommendation from a dean from my college and an associate professor. But the only thing, as you mentioned, it needs to be dated. The signature is done, it's on a letterhead, but there's no date on it. So can the date be put as a a written type one, or does it need to be handwritten?
It can be. There's nothing wrong in it. When people sign, they write their date with that. Sometimes people do that. There's nothing wrong with handwritten date.
Yeah, so it doesn't have a handwritten date or either a type date.
But it should have a date. Here's the thing, there's a certain rules of documentation. A document becomes nullified if it doesn't have a signature or a date.
Right. And the second question here is, I've always heard everyone that I mean, this is a bit out of a topic, but I really wanted to ask the question. Everyone says, this is how much it costs. This is how much, every school application fee, and so many costs around for applying DDS. So my question is, how do we manage our finances around this?
I wish I have had a good answer. So my grandfather had grandfather's dad actually gave him land in Punjab. I'm from Lahore, right? Farm.
Okay.
Like, this is the land. Like, my father would die but would never sell it. I had to come to US. So that's the price I paid for it. I wish I didn't had a green card. I had to come on a student visa in Pakistan. We don't get student loan from Pakistan. I still India is giving you advantage that if you have, obviously they require really good proof from you and everything. And if you provide those documentation and give them security, they can give you student loan. But it's a, how this is funny. Are you a Marvel fan?
Oh, yes.
You've seen where Thanos actually goes in to get a stone and had to sacrifice his own daughter?
Yes.
This is what this is. You have to sacrifice something very big out of your life to get what you want. And whether it's worth it or not, it's up to you. Like, I'm going to be very honest with you. Like, I went, did BDS, was doing oral surgery, came here for a master's, and I never took loan for education. I was just using up my money that I got from my family, right? And then when I went for DDS, I was thinking about postgrad and stuff, but then I was like, this system doesn't make sense to me. They are putting me in more and more loan.
Yes.
What am I to my family or to the people around me? If I'm gonna be honest, and this is not like $10,000 or a $30,000 card.
Yes, it's not a small amount. Yes,
$500,000 loans. It changed your neurological pathway, the way you look at world, the way you look at systems, the way you like. everything changes, because loan is like a burden on you. Whether you, some people don't take it, it's different way how you perceive it. But once you start, and I'm not scared of loan, it's fine, I take it, I'll make the best out of it, I'm not scared of it as long as it's worth it. But the point is, you have to look at the bigger picture, that who are the ones benefiting from all of this system. Because if I'm playing this game and by the end of the day I'm the loser, like everybody benefited from my hard work and I'm the one scratching my head, that's stupid, right? So I don't know how you would bring out the money, but I'm just saying you can make money once you graduate. But no, this is end of the day, this is a business going on. And I never looked at education like this. I grew up, my grandfather was a teacher, my father was a professor. I grew up in a American university in Pakistan, so teaching is like the holy grail in my family. I taught when I was 18. I loved, but when I saw the education system in US, I was like, okay, I've been looking at the system wrong. This is just banks own the education system in US. That's all it is. They like
Um,
dentists because we guys bring money for them out of from our countries.
yes. Just to continue to the question. So, if we want such kind of huge amount of money, like for just for application fees and everything, it would cost around $6,000 to $7,000. So would you recommend to save up on money if you don't have that kind of money at a time at hand, and then apply, or
I would say save up money all the time, even if you're not applying. If you're living as an immigrant, you should be saving money, because things go bad on us all the time, and we don't have backup systems. So, I
yes,
I would say, yeah, there's no right and wrong. I don't know your family situations, your age, your
right,
responsibility. If you have parents that you have to take care of, I kids, I don't know that. So I would be very careful about giving a definite answer to this. This
okay,
is this is your life. You need to figure out what work, because what might work for me might not work for you. And some people are more risk averse. They can
yes,
take risk, they have the stress, they have the ability to manage risk, they have friends, family, siblings who are like, go all in, we are behind you. So I don't know your circumstances, and your money management might be different. Your I know people who can live a whole month in $300. There are people whose subscriptions are $3,000 a month. So I can't answer this for you. The only thing I'll mention is I save and then apply. That's what I can say.
okay. Thank you so much.
So, any other question, guys? I'm gonna talk. If you have any questions, think about it. I'm gonna grab some water. Meanwhile, you guys can think about any other questions. And if you guys, the people who are mute and watching the show with popcorns, you guys are more welcome to ask questions too. All right. Gonna talk a little bit about resume if you want me to.
I have a question, doctor.
Sure. What's up?
So I have an option to take the LWAR from a DDS doctor from University of Washington, and another one is he's a doctor from Canada, but he cleared NDEB equivalency. So which one is having more weightage? And I have used the other letter of recommendation that is from the lady doctor.
It depends on what your experience would have been. So imagine if I can get a letter of recommendation from the Dean of Colorado, but I only spent 1 day with that person. On the other hand, but I think Canadian DDS is also a good recognition, and it also depends like how much work with you did with them. For example, the one with the Canadian one, if you did work with them for about 6 months or maybe a good duration and they can mention a lot of good things about you, then it makes more sense taking it from somebody who you spend more time and who can share more good qualities about you.
So with the American DDS doctor, I have done 1.5 year experience, and with the current experience I'm having with Sri Lankan doctor, he has a Canadian equivalency. So it's been like 4 months with him.
So I think the more it's up to you. You need to figure out the person that you have worked more with and you kind of click better, and who would write you a better of letter of recommendation, because some people can be just jerks. They don't care about you or your success. So whoever was more involved, it's better.
Okay. All right.
So Dr. Tanaya said, "Hey doc, do we have to add full detail in that?" So coming back to resume, here's the thing I'll talk to you about resumes. That when I talk to candidates, they send me their CV. First of all, you need to understand there's a difference in CV and resume. In US, they prefer resume is because resume are brief, which are about 2 to 3 pages. And in that, when you're applying to jobs, the resume is different. When you're applying to school, the resume is a little bit different, because when I'm writing a resume or I'm working with a candidate, I start off with the education part first, not the professional activities, because I'm applying to schools, right? So I want to show my education side, my TOEFL scores, my BDS, my INBD pass and its dates, my TOEFL score, and then I go down talking about my professional experience. That's how I write it down. The other thing, very important, that people don't understand is that they try to write too much detail. Imagine for a second if you were a part of this process in the admission committee and you have to write about 800 applications. You hardly gonna spend 3 minutes at Zoom at just taking a look at that piece of paper. So two things that really help is keeping it brief, and second is making your resume aesthetically more pleasing. So the way you format your resume, the gaps should be equally distant. The for what do you call, like the font you use, it should be uniform, because it should be pleasing to the eyes, because this is something which is gonna be looked, you know how you look at reel and you just scroll, literally that's what's the attention span would be for them, for and in between they will look and read and see. So you want to make the whole format of a resume more aesthetically pleasing by spacing it properly. That's a very important factor. All right. And sometimes people say, do we need to write all our CEs? And if you've done a lot of them, you don't need to write too much detail. That's going to just cram up all the space. You want to keep it. One of the things I'll tell you, this was told to me by a UIC endo resident who was a foreign trained DDS too. She said brevity is the key. Being brief is a very important thing. Actually, did an interview with her. It's on my YouTube, but I'll share it. But being brief with your words and your application, so, because sometimes people say, if we have 5200 characters, or in the supplemental I have given 300 word limit, do I need to fill all of it? No, you don't. it doesn't mean they give you a limit of 300 that you're just gonna write fillers. You're gonna write gibberish words just to fill in the gap. If you can convey your message in the least amount of words, that shows more intelligence. So keep it brief. That's very important. Okay. Do you, any of you guys, if you guys want, we can turn off the recording for now. And if there's any other question you want to talk about your, uh, like your profile or something other than that, we can do that. Do you guys want to do that now? There's one question from Dr. Brain. For LOR, can I add one Dean, one US? Yeah, you can. It depends on what you write in it. Yes, Doc, I do help people with personal statements, but I only work with a very small number of people. I try to keep it discreet. Try to keep it small because here's the thing I'll tell you about writing, and there will be people in this group who have had bad experience. There are people who write a lot of number, like they will give you a very good price and say we will help you with your personal statement, and they do like 20-30% statements a month, and then they end up copy pasting. They have a formula. One of the things I figured out when I used to look at most of these services, these organizations, they are literally like, you know how I never went to India, but I grew up watching Bollywood, a lot of it, and education has been a lot of business up there also in the past years, and they have like everything is a hack and crack version, like finding formulas how to get things done. And I think it's good, but it has a limitation and it gets you in trouble too. And there are things you need to look beyond formulas. So when it comes to your writing, be very careful because you don't want to copy paste things, or you the main thing about writing is your uniqueness. That's one of the most thing, bringing your own story out there. All right, any other questions do you guys have? Because I can turn off the recording if you want to talk about your personal profile, something regarding that's personal, we can discuss that too. I'm going to pause the recording for now.
No problem.
Okay, so you just asked me if getting that radiology and dental assistant certification is good. I'll tell you one thing I should have mentioned earlier. If you're in US and if you want to make your chances really high, then do dental assisting work, physically do dental assisting work, and the radiology counts a lot. You know, 80% of the work that that the school make you do in dentist is dental assisting stuff. And they like people who have done dental assisting, who have done radiology. They really, really want people who have done that radiology certification. That's very important. I had somebody who did it from Boston University. So if you can do it from a recognized university, that way you get two benefit. One is that you not only you got to go to the university, got a stamp from them, and the second thing is that you also got to get that radiology. That's very important. I was one of the few who never did dental assisting before getting into the school, and I had to pay a very big price. You had to, people who were good with dental assisting, for them dental schools was like a piece of cake. They were sliding through like really easy, because most of the clinical work that is being asked for you is dental assisting up there. So yes, it makes a lot of difference. If you have work authorization, or even without work authorization, you can get radiology certification and do dental assisting. That will make your chances way better. Okay, let me go into questions. Dr. He said, all right, Dr. Aditi, this will be recorded so you can take a look at it. So on Instagram, I'll try to do more Q&A session. If you have questions, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp. We can discuss more. And Dr. Tanaya said, does university give some preference to? Well, here's the thing. I'm going to be very honest with you. They prefer people with some experience, but that doesn't mean you can't get accepted if you're a fresh graduate. I had 4 people in my class who were really fresh graduate. The thing is, It's not about being fresh or old graduate. It's about showing that you, okay, if I was helping, I had candidates who were fresh graduate, and this is what I tell them. It's fine if you're fresh graduate, but you want to show that whatever you did, even though it was a smaller number of years, but you gained a lot of experience from that. And in your words, in your interactions, you want to show that you're a resilient, you're energetic person, but you're also resilient. Because one of the problems they have with fresh grad people is that they have high energy, but they are very volatile. They are not stable because they are young and loose. They are loose cannons. So that's the thing that you want to do is, as a fresh graduate, you want to show that I have energy, but I also have some level of wisdom to be a part of this, because this is a stressful like process. So yes, you can get accepted as a fresh graduate if you keep working hard. All right, next question is, I'm on B2 visa. I'm an endodontist with 9 years of experience. Is it advisable for me to? Well, there are a lot of different ways, Dr. Zan, you can do. One, you can go for preceptorship. If I was you, I might do a preceptorship in some endo department in a dental school. You can, doing masters is never bad. That's also one option you can do. Now it all depends on how much money you have and what's your long-term plan. So I've made a video, I'll share it with you. There are different ways you can do. Preceptorship is one of them, masters is one of them. Now, obviously masters takes longer to get done, uh, but yeah, there's not one single way. You can do a lot of different things to, I would even say, look into orofacial pain residency programs in University of Rutgers, USC. Those are really good program, and plus those fellowship, you get to be a specialist after orofacial pain residency. So there's not just one way to look at it. You can look at like these different options, and I might share a video with you up there. Next question is, I have teaching experience for 5 years in oral pathology, which is not clinical. Well, what do you mean is it good to mention in RCV? Well, the point is, it is what it is. You spent 5 years in oral pathology, you can't lie about it. You have to mention that you were a oral pathologist or you've been working up there. Yes, mention it. And it's good to mention it. Just because you were working in oral pathology doesn't make you any lesser of a dentist. The schools actually like people with clinical, with like teaching experience. It's all about how you write it down, how you utilize it. That's the important thing. What should be a good length? 5200 words character, within that limit. CAAPID gives you a 5200 word character. Okay. Any other question, guys?
Doc, I have a question. If that's okay.
Yes.
Shweta. So Doc, I have a gap, 6 years of gap in dental profession, and I have no intention, like not true intention. I'm not a research person or in masters in public health or any other. That's my core. So this is gonna be my second cycle this year, but I applied in middle of the cycle last year. What I'm trying to say is, can you tell me what can I do to improve my profile? Honestly, I started in June.
You have a green card or something, you can get a
No,
high.
I'm a H4 and I'm working as a dental assistant. I have EAD. I'm working, yes.
You can take some really good CE courses. Look into orofacial pain residency program, just as I mentioned. Try to see if you can get a dental assisting job within a dental school, if there's one nearby you. So just there are different ways. Like one thing you want to do is get more academic experience. You can get CE courses within schools, or there are some trainings done within schools, like a bench exam at Buffalo or Pittsburgh. Get those courses done. That also
Even these courses and CE hands-on shows my
Yes, that kind of that you're still investing in academic pursuits.
And it was a great question, and your advice was really truly appreciated by me. I had this question about the certifications because my dentist, which for whom I work, they let me do coronal polishing and radiology. It's a everyday thing. So we do a lot of FMX for all the new patients. I do OPG, iTero scan, all the impressions for them, and make temporary crowns. But I don't know where is the line, like how much I can write.
Here's the thing, what you're mentioning about coronal polishing and stuff, that's
Mhm.
FDA work.
Yes.
If you are licensed as an FDA, then only.
Mhm.
Because if the school
Yes.
says
So
that
I'm
you
not writing anywhere in my experience because I don't have these certifications. But as you advised, it will help me to get these certifications. So my dentist just discouraged me, and I think I got lazy over there. She discouraged me that you don't need it, just do it. I'm letting you do it. So, but now I will go and get the certification because I've been doing this from a while.
in clinics, things happen differently. But it doesn't
Mhm.
has to be mentioned in the same way in paperwork. Paperwork for applying to school is a very idealistic and different world, and what you
Mhm.
practically is a different thing. So I don't want to discuss too much up here since we're in a different platform.
Mhm.
But
I understand.
your description as a dental assistant on paperworks, since you're
Okay.
licensed only to work as a dental assistant.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So in short, you're saying that these certifications will help me.
Yes.
They're okay.
They do.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. Thank you. It's a very informative session. As much as I couldn't gather all this information in last 1 year, so your one session gave a lot of information. Thank you, doctor.
Good thing, Doc. Dr. Muskan, you had a question before I. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, doctor, I do have a few questions. So, doctor, I'm on a B2 visa and I've visited US twice. I'm back to India now. So, do you think I can mention myself as a volunteer assistant because I'm not allowed to otherwise work?
Let's say you did shadowing or non-paid dental assistant.
Okay. So, it would still hold little more value than just mentioning about shadowing.
You can.
Oh,
It,
okay.
so it depends if that person is giving you a letter of recommendation and what would they write up there. That's what matters.
Okay. Okay.
Is
Uh,
the yep.
sorry, please go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And I had another question regarding NYU fellowships. So I was going through the website and I found a few options of fellowships and I found them interesting. But do you think I can still apply to the DDS program if I apply to the fellowship?
You can. They are very expensive. They don't get you a license. They just makes your application stronger. That's what they do. So if you can spend that money and time, it's fine to apply to them. But
Okay, so
yeah,
it's not a contradiction that I'm applying to fellowships as well as DDS.
no.
That's no problem. Okay. And I do have one last question. I know it's about CAAPID, but can you advise me about ADA Pass? Do you think it's a good option to apply to the
I don't know.
specialization programs?
That's not my area of actually expertise. The problem with specialization is you can get accepted, but then you are bound with your license because. And I'll to the other doctors, I'll get to your question right after this. Is that the problem with that is that if you get into a perio program, Ohio State takes a lot of Indian BDS people, but then you're only allowed to work in an academic institute as a periodontist. You don't get an open license to open up your clinic. So it depends on you what you want to do. You can apply that route as well, but obviously it has restrictions on your license.
Okay, doctor. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Dr. Alex, am I right?
Yes.
Alex.
Sorry, is the name of my husband. Sorry. I want to ask you if the ADAT exam help us to improve our CV or to have an opportunity to be eligible for a program. Is better to have it or no?
Which exam?
ADAT. ADAT.
ADAT. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for.
sure. What's your name, Doc?
My name is Erandi.
Okay, and where did you graduate it from, if you don't mind me asking?
I am from Mexico.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, so ADET does help, but here's a quick thing. The schools do like it. Michigan actually asks everybody to give ADET. The only thing with that is make sure you get good score, because I know people who were not getting good score in TOEFL and they were like, we're gonna go and give ADET, and then they didn't get good score in ADET either. And then I was like, don't submit this, because this score will actually make your application look worse. ADET helps only if you can get good score in it, but it does help. But again, you have to get good scores in it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Yes. Dr. Tulsi, you asked if MPH is worth it. I did MHA.
Yes.
It helped me a lot. I did MHA. It helped me. It depends on you. If you want to spend that much money and time, that's up to you. And my answer would be yes, but it's obviously time and money. And somebody else does
And are there and doctor, are there any subjects that are helpful, or it's just the MPH?
Every program has their own subjects. I can't say like which college you apply to, what subject they would be offering, but
Okay.
overall as a degree it helps.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Yep. And somebody asked me if preceptorship helps. Yes, preceptorships do help, but by the end of the day, you're paying a lot of money just to go and shadow in the dental school. So it does help, but it's a lot of money. It's your choice if you want to do it or not. Okay.
Yes, that was me actually.
Next question, Dr. Mara, if you want to ask Dr. Dipti, that was the only thing you want to ask?
That was the only thing I was trying to consider applying to a preceptorship program, so I was just wondering like how important is it to consider?
It does help your application. Okay. Dr. Sandhu, you want to ask the next question?
Yes, doctor. What's the good score, ADET score?
I don't remember. I never gave it. I don't remember good score. Maybe you can ask in the groups, people who have given, but you want to score high in it. You can check on average scores, like do some research on Google and stuff.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure thing. Dr. Jagriti, I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong.
Yes, that's Jagriti, doc.
Yep.
So, doc, I had a question that I am a prosthodontist from India, and if at all I get an interview and they ask me like why you didn't went for PAS and you are doing the general dentistry program over here, like DDS. So, the licensure point that you mentioned that they have very limited options, would that be the right reason for me to mention in the interview?
So this is a question when I train people for interview. That's the question usually asked in the interview. And well, just to give you a generic answer, I usually tell when they ask me, "Are you going to go wide for a surgery?" I said, "Well, the point is right now, as for me, I want to learn the fundamental knowledge of dentistry, restorative dentistry, and floss, and that's one of the reason I wanted to pursue DDS. But if given the opportunity after this, I can look into either into a residency or not."
Okay, doc.
All right. Okay.
I have.
Okay, doc. Thank you, doc.
This as well.
Yep, guys, my camera turned off, but I'm listening. Good.
I
Doc.
have another.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, go ahead, whoever it was.
So I have a question.
For the CASPED as well.
Sorry?
Please, can you talk about the CASPED test as well?
So I did make a detailed video on this as well. So Casper is, message me after this and I'll send you the link to it. So the Casper is actually it's more a ethical conflict based question where they want to see your management of how you deal with conflicts. They will give you situations where they will say somebody's stealing in an exam, your friend is leaving school cause of stress, something like this. and then they want to see how will you respond to that situation. So it's like a ethical scenario EQ kind of like exam. And I'll share with you some videos and stuff that I made over time that can tell you more about it. So I'll just text me after this, and I'll share with you some links to for Casper preparation. And if you need one-on-one preparation help, I can help you out with that too. All right. Any other question, guys?
I have a question, doctor. So should we mention the survival job experience
With
in
job?
our resume? Survival jobs like non-clinical.
No.
We shouldn't mention.
Yeah, everybody knows it. You just don't need to quote them.
Okay. So it will be appearing as a gap then?
You can, it's fine. It depends
But
on
we don't need to provide details and everything.
I don't suggest people writing that I worked on a gas station or something like that. Maybe if you worked in a CVS or something like that, pharmacy, you can. It's your personal choice. It's your personal choice. It's not a very suggested thing, but it's your personal choice.
Okay, and I have given the Casper, but I got very low score, like first quartile. So first quartile, first quartile. But the thing is, like, it will affect the application or not?
I don't know. I don't know how they see the third quartile or first quartile. I just know they want people to take Casper, but I don't think it stops you from getting accepted because you didn't get a fixed quartile. I don't think so. It doesn't work that way.
Okay, thank you, doctor.
Good. And there was one other question. Dr. Zan asked, and then I'm gonna stop the recording really quick. If somebody wants to ask me question, can I mention non-clinical? Yes, you can. There's a volunteer. If you guys I will share the link to the recording. If you guys have to watch it again, you guys can. And if later on, if you need any help with your personal statement, anything with your application, Dr. Arti with your writing or interview preparation, anything like that, we can work on that as well later on. So you're more than welcome to reach out and we can discuss that. But wish you all the best, guys. And
thank you so much, doctor.
good thing. All the best. Bye.